On this episode of Star Wars Time Show, the dudes are getting dirty with some spoilers. That's right, they're rolling up their sleeves, they're getting down in the shit, and they're going to break down what they think of the Jedi Praxis spoilers that have been releasing on Reddit over the past few weeks, as well as being corroborated with MSW, which is the only reason why they're getting into the spoilers. Cue the music. Welcome back to a brand new special edition of the Star Wars Time Show. Why is it so special? Well, you heard the guy. We're finally going to talk some of the massive spoilers that have been coming out for Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. And, you know, you might be asking yourself, well, you guys, you're Star Wars Time. You do the Star Wars Time Show. You're Star Wars bros. Why aren't you just fully immersed into all the leaks and spoilers that have been coming out for The Rise of Skywalker pretty much since the trailer dropped? Well, let me explain. Nick and I kind of have a mantra over here for spoilers, which is, in the end, yes, we're super fans, but the key word there is fans. We are fans too. We are the type of fans that like to be surprised, amazed, wowed when you go watch a new Star Wars movie. For example, it was amazing going into TFA not knowing that Ben was related to Han and Leia, not knowing that Han was going to go out the way he went out. TLJ, it was awesome to know that not know that Snoke was going to get snuffed out just like that. So those little moments we kind of live for in Star Wars Timeland. So that's why we typically don't go down the leak rabbit hole, the spoiler rabbit hole, because sometimes when they're true, it can ruin those surprises for you. But on the other side, the flip side, the side that's even more dangerous and the side that ultimately led to me not liking the prequels and a lot of you not liking TLJ is sometimes when you read these leaks, these spoilers, these fan theories based on spoilers, you create this vision of a Star Wars movie in your mind. And when that vision does not come to fruition, you're disappointed. I mean, it's human nature. If you build something up and it doesn't live up to your expectations, you're going to kind of have a wah-wah reaction to it. And so that's another reason we don't like to dig into these leaks, these spoilers, especially when they're on Reddit. And let's face it, people, did anything massive leak out for TFA or TLJ? I don't think so. I mean, maybe I was just had my blinders on back then too, but I don't think so. So that's why when we were asked by a fan on Instagram, hey guys, what's your thoughts on the Jedi Praxis stuff? It made me feel kind of itchy because I get it. Again, we are a Star Wars themed podcast. You would think we'd be all over this shit. I mean, in the end, leaking Star Wars stuff, talking about leaks is what makes Star Wars sites popular. But we are stupid. We've said that before. We like to work and get no recognition, so that's why we've kind of stayed away. But now we're going to get into it, right, Nick? We're going to dive into the Jedi Praxis leaks up on Reddit. It's the main thing up there on Star Wars/leaks on Reddit, and it's pretty detailed. So you're probably going, well, why now? Why now? Why? Well, because a lot of it has been corroborated with MSW, which scares me even more, especially now that I've read a summary of the film's first act, and both of us have kind of skimmed through the other post by Jedi Praxis that essentially summarizes the entire fucking plot from start to finish of The Rise of Skywalker. So we're not really going to do that for you in this spoiler cast. We're going to focus predominantly on the more fleshed out Act 1 post that Jedi Praxis dropped this week. So, Nick, now that we've drank the bleach, we've poured gasoline into our eyes, and we took the plunge, mostly because of peer pressure. You know, a fan poked us, and he was right to poke us, and we're too pussy to say, you know what, we're going to stick to our laurels.
Yeah, So here's my thought. I echo everything that Matt said. Like, I don't like that I did this. We said in the last
I feel like I have AIDS.
I know. It feels terrible to basically, at this point, feel like I know what's going to happen in the whole movie. That being said, like, you know, if you've read the Jedi Praxis or Paxis leaks, if you've seen all this stuff, it does set up a very interesting narrative.
Oh yeah, he's Praxis. Why the fuck do I keep calling him Praxis?
I don't know. Praxis is...
Yeah, next time be like, hey, idiot. It's Praxis, not Praxis.
I messed it up too, but...
Oh, that's all right.
It's interesting information. But it's just like, man, so... Like Matt was saying, this is going to be heavy potential spoilers. If you're listening to the cast, you want to stay clean, get out now, because we're going to be diving into basically everything.
Before you get out, though, make sure to like, rate, and review.
Yes. Rate, review, like.
Thank you.
Share this spoiler cast with somebody that you don't like so they can get spoiled.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, I mean, the information that's provided... in the full kind of expanded Act 1 breakdown, as Praxis puts it, it paints a picture that makes sense. It paints a picture that's in line with...
I know. And that's what scares me, right, man? It's the fact that this shit is way too detailed to just be some crazy fan pulling shit out of his ass.
Yeah. The only thing, and, I don't know how we want to talk about, how we want to go through, if we just want to go through in order, but there is one thing within these leaks that I'm just not buying. Like, there's one key component to these leaks that I'm not buying, and it's that the entire crux of these leaks is centered around a plot point where Palpatine is essentially admitting, I'm too old to do anything else, and I'm so weak, so I just want to pull Rey and Kylo in to run the Empire for me.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Palpatine would never do that. Like, Palpatine would never admit, one, he's too weak to do something on his own, and two, even if he was in that state, he would never just say, oh, you two people over here, you come over and you just take over for me. I've never interacted with you. I don't know who you are other than just,
well, he probably knows who they are in-depthly because of his connection to the Force, but I get what you're saying. I mean, I agree. It is a little odd. I mean, who knows? That could just be Palpatine playing his long game again until he sucks him in, and then once he feels like he does have him, then his true end game comes out. But I agree. It did seem a little odd. I mean, you would have to think that the dude's, in his hundreds at this point in time?
Yeah, I believe that in the full kind of point-based spoiler breakdown that somebody figured out he's like 113. He was born in 87 BBY, which would have put him at like 87
Oh, yeah. I mean, so
old.
He's basically a million.
Yeah, the dude is well into his hundreds.
So, I mean, yeah, he technically could just be a wet noodle physically. And, physically, it was proven through Vader, you do need your physical self to truly channel the full power of the dark side. So I'm kind of playing devil's advocate. I'm with you. It does sound very out of character for Palpatine, but you never know. I mean, the fucker did fall down an energy shaft, so he could be wonky as hell.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And he's just working his strongest aspect of his game, which is manipulation. So
yeah,
that was good to start there. But I don't know. Do you just want to really? We were talking offline, and I think the best way to approach these leaks is to go with what Jedi Pax has put out this week, and he's going to put out 3 more. It's essentially his summary of where he thinks there's going to be acts. So he did Act 1 this week, and then we'll get 2 and 3. I don't know, man. I don't know if you want to run down start to finish. I guess we might as well touch on each section and just give our comments on what we think's fucking going on. I mean, I guess that's what people want to hear, so here we go. I mean, like I said, I'm already feeling itchy. I feel like I drank some bleach, and I do want to stab my eyes out. And that's just, my friends, I know I said nothing major is leaked out for the other movies. I'm still sticking with that, but this shit is just a bit too detailed for my liking in terms of I don't want this stuff to be true because I essentially will know the whole fucking movie, as Nick said.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll get into the opening here, which I love, Nick. I love this concept. I hope it is legit. And this is the first thing where I was like, yep, I should stab myself for reading this and spoiling it. And it's the fact that the movie's going to open with a flashback.
Yeah, a pretty important flashback, too. Something that really we didn't see coming because it's a flashback of young Luke and Leia. And Luke is training Leia to become a Jedi, like training her in the ways of the Force. And during this flashback, Leia reveals to Luke that she has to stop her training because she's pregnant. She's pregnant with Kylo, with Ben Solo. And And then, that flashback leads into the scene that we saw in
the flashback is huge.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge. Because, it'll finally prove to the idiots that were questioning how Leia could do what she did in TLJ that, hello, she's a fucking Skywalker. And by the way, she was training.
Yeah.
And it also, to me, it makes sense. It's a great start for the movie because in the end, the movie, the main focus is going to be Kylo and Rey, their journey, what happens, right? Okay, everything else is fucking ancillary to that. So I love this. We're going to start in space, come down. You're going to see two characters with training helmets on fight, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? And then bam, it's the young Skywalkers. So it's also important because I'm pretty sure that's going to be a CGI Carrie Fisher, which they said they were not going to use.
That's what I was going to say. It's going to be very interesting to see how they handle the de-aging for both Mark and Carrie. Carrie is, again, she's not with us anymore, and we have been told that it's not going to be CGI representations like we saw in Rogue One. So are they going to just take footage from TFA and then de-age the footage? Like, how is this?
I don't know. Whatever they do, they better sign up the fucking MCU de-agers because those guys have that shit perfected.
Oh yeah.
What they've done with Sam Jackson, RDJ, Michael Douglas, you name it. That stuff looks flawless. Way better than what went down with Tarkin in Rogue One and Leia. So, if they are going to do it, which sounds like they're going to have to if we're going with a young Leia. And they probably, technically, they probably would have had to de-age or use CGI Leia anyways if Carrie was still alive. So I guess JJ wasn't completely lying here.
Yeah, exactly. This is key because like you mentioned, we know that our primary characters that we're going to be following here are Rey and Kylo, but the heart of the Skywalker saga that started in 77 was always kind of focused on these two characters. So it's really cool to start with them.
It's an interesting opening too, because as Nick was about to say, it then transitions into the present. So that's kind of like the aha moment. This is why this was the genesis of Ben Solo, and look what happened with him between Luke and Leia. This was the genesis of Leia pulling away from learning the ways of the Jedi. But it goes right into the present, and what do we see? Leia is training Rey. Those scenes you saw in the D23 footage or of Rey in the jungle, this is essentially going to be the Resistance jungle base, and we're going to catch up with Rey in the present training with Leia.
Yeah, she has no other Force sensitive mentor to turn to at this point. She knows what's happened with Leia. She knows that Leia is Force sensitive. She's a Skywalker, and she's probably also heard tales of what happened on the on the ship in TLJ when she kind of Force saved herself. So it makes sense, and then obviously there is a connection between Leia and Rey. The two of them kind of showed an affinity for each other even back in TFA. So it makes sense that this is the next logical step in her
I
training.
like what we may get in this scene where Leia's tasking her to do some mental type of Force stuff, but Rey can't quite handle it, so she just wants to do the physical. That's kind of an Anakin Skywalker type of decision, right? Or even a Luke Skywalker, like, fuck, I don't want to sit here and meditate.
Out.
I need to jump into action. Let me burn off this energy, something like that. So,
oh, yeah.
Which is probably going to play into some... That's kind of how I've been looking at this summary of Act 1. Like, how are these scenes building into... Because, if you guys watch TV or movies, hopefully you're smart enough now to figure out writers, directors, they drop stuff early on that they're going to pay off in the end or in the middle act. So the fact that Rey is struggling with the mental side of the Force and keeping herself calm and controlled is probably going to rear its head before we're even done with the spoiler cast.
Oh, yeah. And what I really like about the idea of this whole thing, this whole mental to physical training, is it exactly mirrors scenes that we saw in ESB. Like, if you go back to ESB, Yoda is trying to train Luke on the mental side of the Force, controlling his mind, not seeing into the future. He gets frustrated And what does he try to do? He wants to do the physical stuff.
Well, he quits. He's like, I can't do it. I'm a pussy. I'll quit. I need to go save my friends. Let's go.
Yeah, like he wants to get out of there. So this perfectly mirrors that kind of.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very dark side tendency. And, Rey, if she's super strong in the Force, which we know she is, she's going to have that pull.
Oh, yeah.
They all do. It's just, can you balance it at this point, right? No more, you're either all light, you're all dark. You got to go for balance. The Jedi do not exist as we once knew them.
Yeah.
All right. We also get a little summary on what our buddy Supreme Leader Ren is up to. And apparently he has become aware or has been aware of this dark power behind Snoke. And this is going to be driving him to figure out what the hell was Snoke tapping into. What does he know that I didn't know? So he's using the might of the First Order to kind of scour the galaxy looking for this Wayfinder device. In particular, Darth Vader's Wayfinder device, which he thinks will point him towards whatever he's looking for. So this, if you guys remember back to the trailer, I believe, this moment, this summary is essentially that scene where you see Kylo fucking pile driving motherfuckers on a planet.
Yeah, the red tinged force.
Exactly. He's using the full force of the First Order to hunt this shit down, to figure out what type of dark power was behind Snoke.
Yeah, and we've talked about the Wayfinder before, and we've also talked about the eventual character that will give the Wayfinder to him, this Oracle. So basically, when we run into Kylo on this planet, like Matt said, he's kind of slaughtering his way through the people in the forest, and he eventually makes his way to a native of the planet, the Oracle, quote unquote. I don't know if this is the official term or if this is just what's being used as a placeholder. And the Oracle gives him the Wayfinder that will eventually lead him to the unknown regions. So this is kind of the first piece of Kylo that we get in here. So it seems like a lot of the scenes that we saw in the most recent trailer from D23 were kind of right in the beginning of the movie. The forest scene with Rey throwing the saber, the red tinged forest scene. This is also in the beginning of the movie as well. So they didn't really dive too far into the later acts, it seems. But
again, let's not fool ourselves. We are reading leaks from regular people that apparently talk to people that worked on the movie. So don't take any of this as gospel. Don't take the order as gospel. But the way this stuff, as I've been saying, is laid out, I do think there are some valid notes in here. I guess that's the best way to say it. Also in this paragraph, Nick, I don't know if you saw this, but I think we kind of had the feeling here too. But apparently Kylo kind of taking over the First Order and using it for his own personal mission isn't sitting too well with General Hux and Pride, which is going to play into this whole First Order mole thing that we kind of knew all along may happen. That's been teased for a year or more, but it's kind of coming to fruition here. So outside, after we're done checking in our buddy Kylo, he's still angry, fucking people up, just being emo as fuck. We head to an asteroid base, and this is where the movie's going to check in with Finn and Poe. They're going to be on the Falcon. There's going to be some unfamiliar characters at this point, and they're meeting up with, again, what I just said, this First Order informant.
Yes, except we're not actually going to be talking to the informant. We're going to be talking to a middleman.
Exactly.
As is laid out here. So.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, and this isn't in this act summary, but it was in the longer form that Jedi Paxis did. I'm pretty sure most people guessed who the First Order mole would be.
Oh, yeah.
Just based on how he's been treated. I mean, anyone want to take a guess out loud? Say it with us. Hux.
General Yay. Hux.
I mean, It makes complete sense, but that's neither here nor there. But essentially, Nick, while they're meeting with this guy, the First Order figures shit out and starts attacking the base, and we get to see the Resistance's new strategy to get away. Because if you remember in TLJ, you can no longer just make a coordinated jump to light speed and get away.
Yes.
You can now be tracked. So what Paxis is calling here, and what it's been described to him, is they light spring.
Yeah.
And light springing is essentially they don't put any fucking coordinates into the Navi computer, and they just go jump, 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 and they end up somewhere.
Yeah, and then they figure it out from there, which is
Yeah.
exactly, it's exactly the way to get away from the First Order, I guess. These uncoordinated, unplanned jumps. You may not even be next to your own fleet by the time you're finished these light springs because you're all just jumping to get away.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could end up inside a planet. I mean, it sounds like a very risky, and it's probably not good for the health. And this is what the heroes have to do at this point.
Yeah, exactly, and that is going to lead us to a point where the Resistance gets away from the First Order. We know that they don't have the might to fight them head up at this point. They get away, and then our heroes kind of regroup, and then they plot a course, like an actual course, back to the jungle planet where their hidden base is. That's where we have Rey and Leia training in their Jedi training. And then that kind of ends the piece on our Resistance members check-in, our heroes check-in. Then we move on to, kind of our introduction or our reintroduction to Emperor Palpatine as a character in Star Wars.
Oh yeah. So Vader, I mean, Kylo secures Vader's Wayfinder. That was the last summary of Kylo, and he uses it and he travels to this place. It's in the unknown regions. It's described as a dead planet of flat black rock. Sounds perfect for the unknown regions. Paxis is thinking this planet is Exegol. He thought earlier, the one we were talking about where Kylo raids to get the Oracle and the Wayfinder, he thought that was Exegol. Apparently this Exegol is in unknown regions, and this is where Kylo heads out. So apparently he lands here, and then there's some big ass like cube thing. Right? It's like a floating cube. Who knows? Is it a massive holocron? Who knows? And Kylo kind of walks over to it and reaches out, because why wouldn't you? I mean, okay. And it actually reveals an underground base, if you will. And he's kind of met by these aides, these greeters. They're called Sith loyalists. That's what Paxis is speculating here. And they take him to an old man.
An old man that we eventually find out, or Paxis is saying that we find out, is Palpatine. A corporeal Palpatine. This is not a Palpatine
he's real. He's not a clone. He's old as fuck.
Yeah, so Kylo is informed by Palpatine that he survived his fall at the end of Return of the Jedi. He is not dead. He's not a clone. This isn't some sort of, Mishigas that happens. Like, this is an actual, view of of Palpatine as a now over 100-year-old human being, and one that was fucking fried pretty hard from his toss from the, Death Star 2. During this conversation, the important part of this interaction is that...
Well, at first, Kylo's like, go fuck yourself, you old coot. Like, you Looney Tune. But you know how Palpatine, or Sidious, is? I hate that fucking name. You know how Palpatine is with his words, though. And it sounds like the more of the story he tells, the more he's starting to reel young Ben in like a sucker. And that's when he starts explaining, go ahead, this new thing we're going to learn about.
He explains the Force dyad as he, explains it, or as he lays it out, names it. Basically what this is a concept that the Force itself produces two extremely powerful Force users, and that it is, separated, they're still powerful, but when they come together, they're basically like an unstoppable force of, Force users. And it is Palpatine's, mission to combine the powers of Kylo and Rey to take his place and lead the Empire in his after his death.
Basically what Nick started the cast out with, basically going, this is a bunch of phooey bullshit. Because, I mean, it is very anti-Palpatine, but you just don't know. I mean, he literally could be decrepit, and this is his last-ditch effort to be like, haha, finally darkness is going to rule. But as Nick said, the dyad here, it's almost like another prophecy. I mean, this is, to me, it's essentially the second coming of the Chosen One, but it's the Chosen Two. So the dyad, you had the strong, dark, strong, light, or just straight strong. And when they come together, that single unit will be 10 times more powerful than they are on their own. That's kind of his concept here. That's what he's looking for.
And I mean, if we think back, this just kind of occurred to me. If we think back on the Clone Wars, and we think back on that episode where the true purpose of the Chosen One was revealed, where you have the son, the daughter, and the father, and the father is keeping these two forces separated. So in a way, you can harken back to that and say, like, the father, the Chosen One, is there to prevent this dyad from happening.
That's a very astute point, my friend. Again, I mean, that's why Nick makes the big bucks on the cast with theories like that. That is a good one. I mean, we've heard they're wrapping everything up into this one. I mean, that stuff is canon. I mean, you still wonder how much of the animated stuff do they throw into a Skywalker film, but I like what you're saying there. It definitely plays into the concept of the father, the daughter, and the son.
Yeah, because there's no mention.
The Force.
There's no mention of the Chosen One at all, at least within this, this Paxis breakdown. But the Chosen One, as revealed in Clone Wars, was not to be a part of what is now known as the dyad. It is to essentially keep the dyad separated from each other. Whether that be to prevent the death of one of them or to prevent this ultimate power from coming together, as Palpatine has now described it.
The other thing, Nick, and it's not in this long summary here, but in the shorter summary, I believe it's explained that Palpatine essentially tells Kylo or Rey, like, listen, what happened in Return of the Jedi really fucking caught me off guard and bummed me out. He's like, I never thought Anakin would break my hold over him.
Yes.
But he's like, it also taught me something, that the idea of family is always going to be stronger than non-family, the Force itself. Maybe that's going to play into something in another spoiler cast about Rey. Who knows? I really don't even know if I want to do this again after Act 1.
I know.
The sick thing is, though, is I enjoy this shit. I love talking about this with Nick and speculating, theorizing, is this shit right? Doesn't make sense? Do we like it? But it's just like, it's itchy. Like, are any of you else feeling itchy right now just listening to this stuff? I mean, I'm assuming if you're listening, you probably read it. So you're probably like, you should calm down, dude. It's a fucking movie. Get a life. But I don't know, man. So far, what are you thinking, Nick? Like, do you like how this could be playing out so far up to this unknown regions visit?
I like it, but I gotta say, man, it doesn't feel like Palpatine. And you're right, like you said, he even mentions in the longer, spoilers that, what happened in ROTJ fucked him up, like not only physically, but it made him realize that his power is not the greatest power in the universe. He needed to essentially rethink his strategy. And so does now Palpatine think that, like, okay, what's happening in what the Empire is greater than me? Has he come to that realization? And that's why he's taking this path of, trying to combine forces between Rey and Kylo and get them to take over? Is his legacy now to pass on the Empire and have darkness reign for millennia?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when he puts out the Act 2 and 3 summaries, maybe it'll be a little more on the end. And yes, we both skimmed the full one, skimmed some end and middle plot points here, plot leaks, if you will. It is Palpatine. In the end, he could still be playing a game here. I mean, this is very Return of the Jedi, right? Where he's telling the bad guy, like, hey, bring me the good guy and turn him, and then everything will be even more powerful on the bad side. I mean, that's pretty much what's getting set up here. We know JJ excels at essentially modernizing the old movies, and I'm completely okay with that. I'm not shitting on it at all. And really, those of you that hate TLJ, you shouldn't either, because you clearly like safe Star Wars versus let's take a little bit of a risk and change things up a bit. But you're right. I mean, everything around what we've read so far or listened to so far about Palpatine just seems off for him, but we don't know the full story. You never know the full story with Palpatine until he makes his move. I guess one thing, Nick, just real quick, just to fuck around for fun, because this is what we do, and we like pretending like this sci-fi world is real. How do we explain Palpatine surviving? I mean, is it pure just force energy kind of cocoons them?
Yeah,
You know, I mean, we know the guys can fall hundreds of stories and live. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened with Luke. I mean, the only difference between what happened with Luke and ESB and what happened with Palpatine and ROTJ is that we followed Luke all the way down and see that he made it into some sort of
they essentially use the Force to guide themselves. I mean, you really got to see, at least in TPM, what Jedi could do with their Force powers. It's weird they never went back to any of those, like the mega running speed, like the flash speed, the fucking they were jumping from 100 feet or more. So yeah, you had Leia floating in the vacuum of space. So am I going to sit here and get all break out physics to explain how Palpatine could technically survive his fall? No, I mean, it's a fucking movie, right?
Yeah.
Get over it. I mean, is it going to be a little weird? Yeah, but it's a movie about space wizards and laser swords, okay?
It's true.
Okay,
it's true.
People, you just got to sometimes take it as this isn't real fucking life.
Yeah. Now, I will say that so far, based off of what we know, the character of Matt Smith, as described in other rumors / leaks that came out months ago, is now completely eliminated.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I want to pose it to you once we get to this Ochi character, but we'll get there. So anyways, just kind of wrapping up the Unknown Region summary here. Palpatine, essentially, at this point, has reeled Kylo in. He tells him the plan. Go get Rey. We need to make you guys essentially become this dyad, a unified force of darkness. But he also tells him, like, hey, by the way, I have an armada of flying Death Stars.
Yeah,
so
not like Death Star sized Death Stars.
Star Destroyers that are Death Stars.
Yes.
So he's like, let's fucking do this. And apparently, Nick, you were just asking this on the last cast, episode 67 here. Apparently, he's just going to immediately task Hux and Pride with rounding up kids to train and staff this armada. So I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me.
No.
Unless Hux and them knew of this Unknown Regions place and Kylo didn't, which I find that hard to believe. But as you posited in the last cast, how the fuck has this armada been staffed? I mean, where's he been getting people? Are they clones? Who knows? But according to Paxis, Hux and Pride were the ones. They essentially did what they did with the First Order, and they just went and conscripted kids and shipped them out to the Unknown Regions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and I just don't understand. Again, we're talking about leaks here. None of this is confirmed, and some of it could be bullshit. But I don't understand what the plan is here. Conscript kids, yes, send them out to the Unknown Regions, and then what? You have to wait 15 years before they're even capable of doing something?
So like I said, you're right. I mean, like I said, it's almost like these two have been in touch with Palpatine, or maybe it was Snoke feeding them Palpatine's commands. You have to imagine Snoke was playing a game with Kylo. He was using Hux as a puppet, but maybe Palpatine was telling him, no, let the regular guys in on this a bit more. We need them to kind of staff shit up. They're so competitive with Kylo, they're never going to tell Kylo what the fuck's going on. And by the way, Snoke, it's all part of my plan anyways. You're going to die. Kylo's going to kill you. That's all part of the plan because I still want him to come and see me. So there could be that. I mean, Hux and Pride could have known about this via Snoke for decades.
Could have for sure. So that's an interesting way to kind of close out the Exegol, a.k.a. the Unknown Regions portion of the Act 1 spoilers. A lot to intake there, a lot of questions to ask there, obviously, but I don't want to linger on it too long because like Matt said, if we do end up doing, spoiler cast 2 or leak cast 2 and leak cast 3, we'll get a little bit deeper into the character of Palpatine and what's happening, with him specifically. But the next piece for Act 1 that we're going to move into is just the Resistance getting back to their jungle base. So we said, after they do their light springing, they set the course back to
right. So they now know what Kylo's up to. They know he's got this wayfinder. They know he's trying to find this unknown region. So clearly they're hitting the panic button.
yes.
They're back with everybody, right? Because we already know Rey has been on the jungle base with Leia. So when Finn and Poe get back, this brings the band together.
Yes, and then as we know, the Resistance is in kind of dire straits, and they don't really have any way to combat what's happening here with Kylo. So this is when, on the jungle bases where Leia says, like, well, I may have somebody who can help us out, and we need to go to this planet named Pisana. And
which is going to make sense once we get in the next spot, as well as stuff we've heard and discussed before. Because remember, Pisana is essentially the furthest planet on the edge of the known galaxy before the unknown begins. And as Nick explained here, Leia's like, yo, I know someone that was trying to find a link to the unknown region. So apparently the unknown regions are something people know a lot about.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to fucking get there. And it's almost like it sounds like people have been looking for this for a long time. It's like the treasure galaxy or something.
Yeah, I mean, they seem like, people seem to think that there's something out there, at least.
Right, it's not just dark side people is what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly. So we get to Pisana. Pisana is the planet that we've seen that's kind of dusty, deserty.
It was in the Vanity Fair magazine. Yes. It was in that's the planet more than likely that Rey is on in the first teaser, that awesome shot.
Yeah, and this is where I believe this is the planet where we are going to run into Janna. And then we also run into Leia's contact, who is none other than Mr. Lando Calrissian, former proprietor of Bespin.
Okay, so here's where things start to get very nuanced. So they get to Pisana, huge festival where they're trying to hide, laying low, but you can't. You got fucking Chewie with you,
Yeah.
And apparently an alien gives Rey a necklace.
Yeah.
But that's going to play into things later on, so just sit on that. It's like I said, a lot of times writers will give you little things that may seem ominous, but they're done because they're going to be paid off later on. Anyways, Kylo essentially, once she gets this necklace, he's able to initiate a force connection.
Yes, it was basically like I don't want to call it like a Wi-Fi connector, but it was like a force attuned device that allows.
Or you know what? Maybe it's not even a necklace, dude. The more I'm reading this, it's probably the fact that I guess when this alien gives her the necklace, she's like, "Oh, I'm Rey, but I don't know my last name. I don't know my family." It's almost like once she gets into that headspace, maybe she was sending out essentially flares to the Force. Not like, "Hey, Kylo, come get me," but it allowed him to like, "Fuck, I finally found her again." Because you got to remember, she severed the connection at the end of TLJ, and it has not been opened until this point. So I'm going with the necklace and the pain of the memory that she still doesn't really know where she came from is what allows Kylo to be like, aha, there she is, bam.
Yeah, because it says, like, I'll read a piece from the leaks. It says, she's talking to this alien, and she says that she doesn't have a last name. At this time, Kylo establishes a connection with Rey through their bond. Their conversation ends, as in Rey and the aliens, conversation ends with Kylo grabbing the necklace from around Rey's neck. And then it says the necklace proves to be the key to the First Order discovering their location.
Well, I'm guessing with they see it and they're like, yeah, that's a fucking Pisana monkey donkey.
So do you think like he grabs it and he's able to like take it through the bond? Like, does he take this necklace off of her neck? Or does he just like grab it, see it, and then is like, this is Pisana?
That's what I'm going with, because even Master Luke, in full-on projection form, couldn't touch another being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of, questions still up in the air.
I guess he kind of kisses Leia, doesn't he?
He does. He kisses her on the forehead. But I don't, and then also he gives her the dice.
But I think they disappear.
Yeah, the dice do. Yeah, they disappear. That's true.
I'm
It's
going
weird.
with if anything, it's the fact maybe he can sense where she's at through the connection, or like I said, maybe the necklace is so tribal that they know it's a Pisana necklace.
Yeah, there has to be something immediately identifiable about Pisana on there.
So right there, Ray's like, shit, they now know where we're at. And so this is where things start to get little scratchy for the heroes. You know, the pressure gets turned up. They're thrown into the cooker here. And this is where Lando reveals himself. So he is the contact. He sees Chewie clearly. All right, yep, they know each other. And apparently Lando tells him a story of a dagger that's going to help them find what they're looking for, which is, again, leads on the unknown region. And Lando explains, of all people, him and Luke were in search of this dagger that was owned by a Sith loyalist named Ochi.
Yeah, Ochie.
Maybe is that the Matt character? Who knows? But either way,
be.
they tracked Ochi to Pisana. Trail went cold, and Lando's like, okay, well, or they're like, Lando, why'd you never leave? And he's just like, I had a young child at the time, and the child was taken by the First Order. Is that setting up the Finn-Lando connection?
Could be, for sure.
So what do we think's going on with this Ochi and the dagger, and why the hell do you think Lando and Luke were looking for the dagger for the same reason, to get leads to the unknown regions for some point?
Yeah, I mean,
if this is true, I mean,
it seems like everybody was kind of scrambling for these unknown regions artifacts, and it's very unclear here. We know that the Wayfinder was Vader's, but with the Sith dagger, it doesn't seem to be linked to any particular Force user or ancient Sith that at least from these leaks, but it has to have something to do with the unknown regions and being able to kind of lead them there. So, why did Lando never leave? He was just basically like, he failed to protect his kid, and
right. It's almost like he was just bummed out, and
he kind of blooped it. He was like,
I was going to say, he essentially actoed himself.
Yeah, except the difference is like he lived amongst people, and Luke kind of sequestered himself alone.
So in the end, people, all your heroes from the original trilogy that you thought were going to come back in this one and be, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Commando, every one of them essentially pussed out because of their failings. Yeah. Han quit trying to help the Resistance because he fucked things up with Leia and Ben. He goes back to being a smuggler. Lando self-exiles himself in Pisana because he lost his kid while looking for this dagger to the First Order. Luke loses control of his nephew. He self-exiles. So here we go, people.
Yeah.
Our heroes from the original trilogy were basically a bunch of pussies as they got older.
So from there, we are now kind of...
The interesting thing, though, Nick, is that Lando's like, yep, check these coordinates out. Might be a shit, but I'm sitting this one out. I think he's going to come back into the picture, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be on the adventure with them on Pisana, at least.
Yeah, I mean, we know Billy D is an older fella, and we didn't really expect him to get in the mix, like to fight or anything like that, or to really do any sort of stressful work here in the movie. So this is the perfect role for him. It's like being the in-between person, providing information, being a point of contact for the Resistance on a planet that has something that's important to them. And then, like you said, he kind of points them in the direction like, hey, Luke and I were looking for this dagger. We gave up, but here, pick up the trail, head out this way, essentially telling him this is where we left off. And then when our heroes start following the trail that Lando gives them, they run into what is said to be Ochi's ship. And right. What's important about Ochi's ship is that it immediately triggers a memory from Rey, and it is that this ship looks very much like the ship that dropped me off on Jakku.
Yeah, it's identical. But before all that shit can sink into her lovely little head, the ground gives out. They sink. They're in a cave. But where they find the cave, they found what Lando and Luke could not. They find the remains of Ochi and the dagger everyone is looking for. And again, when Rey sees this thing, she has a very strong connection to it.
Yeah,
And
almost
if we
like
want it, like, Nick and I read the summary, essentially people are speculating, or it's been leaked, that this dagger is what was used to kill Rey's parents.
Yes, this is something that comes up later in the spoilers.
Who I believe they kind of were dabbling in some dark shit anyways, right?
Yeah.
If I remember.
Yeah, they didn't really go into, even in the leaks, they didn't go deep into her parents. There's something else that's in there that we'll get to if we do continue to do these leaks. But
either way, she sees it, strong reaction, but it's got Sith language on it.
In a language that
C-3PO can't even handle it. So this is why you're going to get Red Eye C-3PO. I mean, essentially, from what I've heard, they're basically going to have to wipe his mind, and C-3PO is going to essentially be killed that way. His mind's going to be wiped. He's going to be rebooted to core programming so he can read the Sith stuff, because apparently someone put a block in him to where he couldn't decipher whatever was on it.
Yeah, there's a restriction within his programming that literally does not allow him to read it. And I mean, if you think about it, I mean, here's an interesting little deep. I mean, talk about a deep cut. This is a deep motherfucking cut. There was lost time with C-3PO and ESB. He got blown to pieces in ESB by a stormtrooper. So, and then his remains were not found until Chewie happened across them when the Ugnaughts were throwing his stuff around. The only people who had access to his systems in that time were Imperials, and specifically Darth Vader. Vader was on that station. We know that. Like, could that have been when these restrictions were put in? Because it doesn't make sense in any other timeline that we see 3PO for somebody to go in and say, like, you specifically cannot read this Sith language. Like,
Right. You would have to think it was someone that knew about the Sith language and the fact that if the good guys could interpret it, it would be bad.
Yeah, and I mean, that's Vader.
And when you have a protocol droid that specializes in, 6 million forms of communication, you don't quite want him to be able to communicate in the Sith language. So, anyways, this revelation is what kind of leads Poe to say, hey, I know this person, Zori, we used to bang. She can probably hack his ass. But that's before they run into a bit of trouble here. As they're trying to escape the caves, it sounds like they're going to get in a battle with a huge-ass sandworm, which should look pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But Rey essentially heals it, but she's going to heal it with a new force power. I mean, essentially, it sounds to me like it's almost going to be Force Wolverine. You're healed, you're hurt, use the Force, it's just going to fix itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like, if you've ever played any of the video games, all of the light side Force, options that you can play have like a healing ability, whether it's Force Heal, or even if you played like the MMO, they had Dark Heal for Dark Side Force users. So I mean, like, they're basically going to reveal, like, with enough power in the Force, you can heal either yourself or you can heal other beings.
Here you go, back to your Palpatine thing, and it's we've said it, but one of the commenters makes a point. The point we were making, he just says it better because he's probably not stupid. Actually, it's probably a girl, so that's probably why it's more coherent than what we just tried to say. But just hear me out, people. Palpatine's real power is manipulating people, which we said. Him lying in bed like he's about to die reminds me of when he pretended to be all weak and helpless during the fight with Mace and Anakin. There you go. So, like I said, he's probably pretending to be this feeble piece of shit.
Yeah.
So Kylo will kind of almost feel unthreatened by him. And then he's going to spring his trap once he gets what he wants. But anyways, back to our summary here. So, yeah, as Nick was saying, we're going to see, at least in live action, the Jedi Force Heal, or just the Force Heal, right?
Yeah.
But once they get out, Nick, so the worm, basically Rey put a Band-Aid on it. It's like, oh, thank you, I love you. And they get out. But when they get out, more shit hits the fan. First Order is here. They know that the fact that the First Order is already in the sky above them, that they are not going to be able to get out on the Falcon. And sure enough, guess who takes the Falcon? The First fucking Order. That's going to be rough to see.
Yeah.
The First Order is going to take the Falcon, load it on a Star Destroyer, but you know the good guys eventually will probably get it back.
Oh, dude, I just got a tingle. Here because
yeah.
further on in the, you read through the other spoilers. There comes to a point where First Order's got the Falcon, something else happens, and we may be able to see a certain character piloting the Falcon that we never really expected that we would want to see them piloting it. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know if you want me to say it now because this is a leak cast anyway, or if you want me to just tell you.
Well,
after
I mean,
we hang it up.
I know we're gonna say different people here, but just based on the trailer, I mean, Lando's clearly flying the Falcon at some point.
Yeah.
And considering what we've just read, if this is all true, Lando may be in the rescue operation to get the Falcon.
He could be, but I was talking about Ben Solo. Not Kylo Ren. Ben Solo.
Yes. Because I did read some of the other spots. I mean, essentially, not to get ahead of ourselves, who cares? I mean, you guys know we're in spoilers anyways, but at one point in time, Rey and Kylo have a fucking epic battle on the Death Star wreckage, right, Nick?
Yes.
Am I getting it right?
Yeah.
So epic that she fucks him up.
Yeah. Like she assumes that she killed him.
Like she fucks him up so bad that she Luke's herself.
Yeah.
She's like, fuck, I'm doing exactly what Master Luke was doing. I can't control the darkness in me. I'm going crazy.
Literally goes to Acto. Like that's where she goes.
Right, but you're and I'm it's starting to come back to me now though. But essentially, does he
turns back to the light?
He kind of has a change of heart because he gets a visit from somebody.
Yes.
And so you're thinking maybe he goes back to the First Order, and that's when he's like, "Fuck it, I'm jacking the Falcon. Let's do this."
Yeah, and we see the rightful owner of the Falcon, the true lineage of the Falcon.
Well, yeah,
Ben Solo,
if you want to
flying it out.
Get back to like the medieval times, it would definitely pass to Ben first.
Yeah, and I mean that would be fucking incredible. Like,
oh no, yeah, it would be a great fan moment. I feel like, I mean, we know Lando's going to be on the damn Falcon, and if he's really going to be like, oh, I don't want to travel with you, at some point in time, something's going to happen where he is on the Falcon. So, I don't know, who knows? But yeah, that'd be pretty damn epic to see that. But anyway, so like, First Order's there, shit's hit the fan. Falcon's been confiscated, and here we go. I mean, here we go. So Rey knows that Kylo is coming, so she's like, listen, people, you guys save yourselves. I'm going to deal with this asshole, kind of like a distraction.
Yeah.
Chewie at the same time is like, listen, I'll distract too, but Chewie gets fucking captured by the Knights of Ren, and they take the dagger because Chewie was the one kind of protecting the dagger. So they board a First Order prisoner transport. Rey and Kylo both notice that Bacca has been captured, and this is where Rey's like, fuck. She's fighting Kylo, and now she's like, shit, I can't let Chewie be captured. And she starts using the Force. Kylo's using the Force. They're kind of doing the lightsaber tug of war at the end of TLJ.
Yeah.
And Rey is getting frustrated, and what does she do? She shoots fucking lightning out of her hands and blows up the transport.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've never seen from a light side, quote unquote, Force user before. Is Force lightning just rocket out of their hands? Like, it's
in every Force user's capabilities to do it. It's just, will you tap into those emotions to let it come out? And it sounds like, and again, this is going back, this is the first payoff on the early training scene with Leia, right? Yeah. Rey can't fucking calm herself mentally. She's getting frustrated. When you're frustrated, what happens? You start to slip. You start to let the dark side in. Same thing Luke did at the end of Return of the Jedi when it's what he used to beat his dad. And the battle we talked about on the Death Star, we also read that she taps in even more to the dark side, and that's why she thinks she kills Kylo. But essentially, I mean, are you reading this as she's blowing up the transport that Chewie was on?
Being taken captive and being brought to a transport ship during their confrontation.
And she's trying to force pull it back to the ground. He's fighting her over it, and then she fucking zaps it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think that's the death of Chewie. I'm
Killing
sure Chewie
all
will
its passengers is what it calls out. I mean,
right, but you would
Yeah.
also think if this guy is legit, he would be like, "Fuck, Chewbacca's dead." So
yeah, he didn't even specifically call out like, "Hey, this kills Chewie." I mean, that would, in my opinion, that would be a shit ass way to kill Chewie because it's an off-screen death. Like he's not even physically
exactly.
present
I mean,
when
it would be horrible for the character, but it would be very impactful on Rey.
Yeah,
I mean, the
exactly.
fact that she essentially murdered one of her homeboys because she can't control herself still, or she
Yeah.
can't control her anger. Period.
Yeah, she just like the force. She has the force in her, but she has no way to control it because she refuses to do the mental training that Leia wants her to do, and she's just never really like. We think of Rey as a light side force user, but she's not. She's just like this neutral force presence. Like she's never had formal training one way or the other. Like she has good intentions in a lot of what she does, but she doesn't really have the ability to channel the force in any sort of good or bad way. Like, you know, she's just this vessel for force power, and the force power expresses itself in whatever her emotions are at the time.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously that act really bums her out. I mean, she's laying there devastated. Luckily, Finn, Poe, 3PO, and BB-8 get Ochi's ship. They get it flying. They come pick up Rey. And then essentially the good guys with no Lando, no Falcon, no Dagger, no Chewie limp away from Pisana, probably headed to Kijimi.
Yeah.
And that's where this Act 1 summary ends. And, you know, Paxos said he's going to be doing the same thing for 2 and 3. Now, I'll tell you what right now, my friends. I absolutely enjoyed talking about this with Nick. I don't know if the enjoyment is enough to blow the whole movie for ourselves.
I know. It's like Act 1 is like, I feel okay with Act 1 because it doesn't, like, it gives up obviously some of the plot points that are in the movie, like some
right, but I mean a lot of it is obvious type of stuff. I mean, we know Lando's going to be in there. I think the biggest thing that bummed me out that I found out was the opening flashback.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was the thing that nobody knew about, nobody could have guessed, nobody saw
Right.
it coming. Like,
Right.
you know,
Everything else all kind of makes sense. In I like the flow of this first act. I mean, it does make sense to me. Like I said, that's why we are buying into a Reddit leak. I typically don't, but the fact that it's been corroborated by MSW, and it's well thought out. I mean, this literally sounds like a dude was talking to a dude
yeah.
that knew a dude. You know what I mean? So I don't know, dude. I so many dudes in here all of a sudden.
Dude fest. Here we are.
Nick and I, we're going to have to meditate on the next one. I mean, Paxos has promised it. I don't know if he's going to do one a week. I don't know if we're going to get Act 2 next week and Act 3 the week after that. I mean, at this point, Nick and I have skimmed his whole summary, so we did see certain points, but it really just all goes back to any movie, the big stuff is coming in the middle and the end. And it's like, how much do I really want to know? I mean, if it was a general plot summary, I could get into that, but
This is pretty specific.
yeah, it's pretty fucking nuanced, man. And it's like, I really don't know what to do. But, I mean, did you have fun? Did the people have fun? I don't know. I mean, hopefully we'll get some feedback. I know we like doing this type of stuff. I like spitballing with you, kind of coming up with our own ideas based on what people are saying, or just saying if it's good or if it sucks. But I don't know. I just don't know.
I mean, you know, if we, you know, like Matt said, we're going to talk about it. If anything, if we decide not to do, you know, the full Act 2 and 3 breakdowns as we see them come out from Paxos, what we may do is just touch on some of the high level points that Paxos put out.
There you go.
Previously.
Some of the highs, maybe some of the lows, some of the stuff we highly question, some of the stuff we wouldn't want to see or do hope happens. I don't know. But as I said in the opening, we're mega fans, just like most of you. I'm going to assume you're a mega fan if you listen to a Star Wars podcast on the reg. So hopefully you feel us. I mean, it is. We're still little kids at heart when it comes to Star Wars. We still want to be wowed. We want to be blown away. We want to cry. We want to laugh. We want to get angry. And sometimes when you already have preconceived notions of what's going to play out, it can temper what you see. I mean, as a critic, this is why I don't read other critic reviews before I go into reviewing something, be it a video game or a film. I don't want someone else's opinions to affect mine, and they will. We are humans. If I tell Nick, hey, Nick, this movie coming out this week kind of sucked, Nick's going to go into that movie with a feeling of this is going to kind of suck, which is either going to make it suck for him, or he's going to come out of it and go, dude, you're an idiot. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So
everything colors opinions, no matter how much you try not to do it. So.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, the fact that we even have a general possible outline of the first act could and probably will impact our initial screening of this content in the Rise of Skywalker. But you know what, my friends? We did it for you. Yes. We fell on the spoiler sword for you. You should appreciate us. You should worship us. Maybe you don't have to do that, but you know how it is. We listened to the fans. You came to us. We debated. We fought. We stabbed each other a few times. And then, like I said, we pulled up a big glass of bleach, drank it, and read some Reddit Star Wars leaks. So hopefully you enjoyed our breakdown of the first act from the Jedi Paxis leak summary of The Rise of Skywalker. Nick will have it linked in the post where the cast is going to live, so if you want to go read it in full for yourself, go for it. I would suggest you might as well, because if you're listening to this and you're taking my directives, you already heard all the shit anyway, so you might as well go read it for yourself, right? It can't hurt much more. But my advice, if you got through this and you're feeling real dirty right now, you don't like yourself, you feel like you did something wrong, just stop seeking out leaks then. Your body and your mind is telling you that you're someone that does not like leaks.
Yeah, so
all right,
it's an interesting time.
If you would have, it is weird, Nick, because if you would have talked to prequels era Matt, he wanted everything he could get his hands on. But as I explained in episode 67, that's also why I think I hate the prequels so much, because they did not live up to what I had built up in my own head based on things that people were leaking or just what I was thinking. I've tried to approach these movies now. Yes, I do speculations, but they're speculations. They're fun. I'm just throwing darts. I don't have a firm, this needs to happen or I'm going to be angry. In prequels, I did. I needed to see how a little boy, a sweet little boy, sweet little slave Anakin, Annie, if you will, could become murderer of thousands, planets, whole galaxies, and I don't feel we ever got that. So I think you understand where we're coming from. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, but it's that time of the cast. It's time to say goodbye, and it's also the time to get your happy asses over to StarWarsTime.net. Click around a few times. Look at the content we're putting out there. We don't just sit and talk behind the mic. We do videos. We do news posts. We share toy photography. That's just what we are. We are artists supporting artists. Hashtag that shit. But seriously, StarWarsTime.net, you can find all the subscribe links to the platforms of your choice for podcasts or YouTube. Hook it up. Once you get there, sub, like, rate, and review. That should honestly become our new motto. There's always time for Star Wars time. That's our motto, but it should literally become sub, like, rate, review, and comment. All right, my friends, remember, if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you. Always.